What I want to do now is take a step back and quickly go over or dive into the concept of circular economy itself. And I know that many of you will have seen this diagram, right? This is a diagram by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation known as the butterfly diagram. And I've included it here because I think it shows something very important about circular economy. One is that there are different materials to be thinking about, right? There's the biological materials that can be renewed, and there's the technological materials that are the finite materials that we find on our planet. The other thing is that there are different strategies to consider within those two realms. Some of those strategies might be more easy to implement than others. Another thing is that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation advocates is that the inner loops are better capable of preserving value on a higher level. So that means that when we are considering circular strategies, we should be considering those strategies first. Now, that's one diagram, but there are many other ways of thinking about circular economy, and you see that the butterfly diagram is just one of them. And these diagrams, they can either advocate change on the macro level, so they are more meant to as exploratory and inspirational frameworks. What are the range of strategies on the level of the economy that are available? Some of these frameworks focus on the sector level, so what kind of materials a sector uses and what kind of strategies are particularly suitable for those. And then there are the frameworks that focus more on the company level and the product level, so they are more descriptive. With that in mind, we felt that we needed something that was usable for manufacturing companies more broadly. We couldn't find something that was particularly suitable for that, a wide range of strategies, whilst also considering the manufacturing context. So what we did in the project is that we took it down to basics, and we thought, well, what's really the core of manufacturing? Well, we take raw materials, and through various stages of manufacturing, we create a product that we use for a while. But usually what happens in the linear economy is that value is lost. It just drops off the value cliff, if you like, because we throw them away, and all the value in getting the materials concentrated, getting them in a usable state, getting them into a product, getting that to the user, all of that is instantly lost. And what's more, when that happens, we're also contributing to value destruction. So pollution, emissions that happens as a result of this linear system, that ruins our environment and the carrying capacity of our planet. And the same goes for the emissions that are generated in the manufacturing process, and particularly the manufacturing of replacement products. So ideally what we would want is a more gradual decline. And there are various opportunities along that journey to recapture value. Some of those lie in the extending existing use cycles. So can we redistribute the product and give it a second life in new use contexts? Or maybe there is some type of minor defect that we can remedy, and through repair and remanufacturing and refurbishment or even upgrading, we can keep the productive use of that particular product and get more use of it that way. Another thing that we can do is keep the value of the materials. So if the product itself can no longer be maintained or reused, then we can still capture the value of those materials, and you provided a lovely example of that, Lars. And this can be done in various ways. So we can think of recycling, so keeping the materials on a high quality level, or through material cascading, so finding other uses that maybe involve some transformation of the material. So that was our starting point. And then we thought, well, there's various things that you could be doing along that journey of the value hill that either create potential for circularity or that actually operationalize it. So a few things that you can do to restore, reduce and avoid impact in the raw materials and sourcing stages, for example, is to source renewables. Right? Those materials can be regenerated over and over again. Or maybe restorative sourcing. So what you mentioned with the ocean plastics is a marvelous example of that. Other things that you could be doing take place more in the manufacturing stage, right? There's the lean manufacturing, basically the common sense that you would be doing anyway. But maybe there are other things that you could be doing, the rework for products that don't make it through the quality control. Maybe they can be remanufactured and sent out to be used by customers. Another thing that could be done is in the product use and operation phase. And there are various strategies that could apply to this phase. So stimulating product longevity, for example, pursuing a classic design, which again, Open is a wonderful example of that. And then there are the strategies that I talked about just now, the upgrading, the repair, the maintenance, everything that keeps the product itself in productive use for longer. And then the recirculation of materials, again, what I've just spoken about. Now, one thing that is important to consider is that these strategies, they don't exist in isolation. They influence each other, right? If you go for a renewable material, then that choice also influences what kind of recycling strategies can be applied to that. Or if you design a product to be very robust, then maybe that has an impact on the repair and maintenance practices. Depending on the design of your product, that might become more easy or more difficult to perform. And of course, we need to consider the logistics. Not unimportant, especially when there are circular solutions involved. Not making sure that there isn't a rebound effect from a logistical perspective here is important. Now, what I've talked about so far basically is all about how you make tweaks and improvements to existing systems, how you can make those more circular step by step. But maybe something else that we need to consider is how we rethink and reconfigure the delivery of value altogether. So this is the area where we're talking about the change in business models. So for example, you could be thinking about support services for your product. So offering repair and maintenance services and making spare parts available and supporting your product through life in that way. There's access or availability models, so this is where you have access over ownership models, the leasing and renting that you just mentioned. And then there are the result and performance models, so where you're no longer having a conversation with your customer that is focused on this many products at this time, but you're having a conversation about how you can solve your customers' problems, how you can contribute to their processes and make them more efficient and better. And the last category that I briefly want to talk about is the reinvent category. And this is really where we're talking about a change in the paradigm, so where we strive for radical decoupling. And a low-tech example that I can give of that is the example of coffee cups. So when you go and get a takeaway coffee, you get a single-use mug, right? Or, and this would be a change in paradigm, you could bring your own reusable mug, replacing many, many single-use coffee mugs. A high-tech example of that is digitization. So these are the examples of the iTunes, the Netflix, the Spotifys, where we no longer need a physical information carrier to provide us with entertainment services. So this we see as the full spectrum of circular strategies that can apply to a manufacturing company. And we call this diagram the circular strategy scanner. And we're using it in the processes or in our company engagements that we've done so far. And we're basically using it in two ways. One is we use it as a way to inventory what the company is already doing. So maybe there are already circular strategies applied within your company. Maybe there are strategies that, or things that you are doing that create potential for circularity, but that you're not yet capitalizing on. So first understanding what is the current state, what is going on. And then the next step is what can be improved. So can we improve some of the outcomes of those strategies? Maybe we can do more of them. We can scale them within our company. And maybe there are other strategies that we could also be considering, that we could add, and that way we build a circular system. We really search for where those strategies can come together and create synergies, both in line with our interests as a business and with resource efficiency more general. Now, what we ask of you in the workshops just now, and this is to have a common frame of reference, is that you adopt the role of a manufacturer of electronic toothbrushes. And the reason why you have chosen this product is because it has a lot going on. You will all be familiar with it, but it also has different materials. So there are the plastics within it, there's the motor, it has a battery. And this provides a common basis for when we go into the tryout sessions. And in the different tryout sessions, the researchers will be asking you to think about this product, but also to think about a specific strategy of the circular strategy scanner that they want you to look at, and that they will use as sort of the scene for the exploration of their tools. And just to give a few examples of what that might look like, right? So, for example, you could be using bioplastics in the creation of the shell. You could be using the ocean plastics, as I already talked about. Maybe you could be thinking about lightweighting the product in ways unexplored so far. Maybe, so this is an example in where you have injection molding. You have offcuts of that. Maybe they can be refed into the production line instead of sending them to landfill. Maybe we should be thinking about designing the product in such a way that it can withstand use better. And for example, this can mean making moving parts of more durable materials than other parts. Another thing to be thinking about in the context of this product is low consumables. Because here specifically, right, you can take off the brush and that has to be replaced every now and again. Are there ways that you can do that more efficiently? Maybe you replace less or smaller parts of this. A strategy already applied in the context of the brush is how to use idle product capacity, right? Usually these replacement heads, they are labeled with a different color, and this enables a household to share one brush, so you don't use your partner's or your kid's brush by accident. Maybe the technological lifetime is much longer than the actual use of the electronic toothbrush, because the outside starts to exhibit signs of wear and tear. So maybe you can refurbish the brush, give it a new shell. Maybe the product can be redesigned in such a way that it becomes much easier to separate the different materials that can then go on to be recycled in their respective streams, right? Currently, small electronic devices fare particularly badly in our recycling systems because they're generally just ground up, and we sort of try and do the best with the outcomes of that. Maybe through redesigning the product, we can be capturing more value from the materials contained within it. Another thing that we could be thinking about is maybe if we can offer spare parts or replacement parts, so that we don't have to throw away the whole brush when it breaks. We can also think about access or availability models. So for example, in the context of hotels, and this is an example particularly relevant to the east of our world, where a hotel will offer a new and clean brush for its guests every day, which is tremendously wasteful. What if we can somehow use electronic brushes so we generate less waste and we only replace the top? This is a strategy, the reinvent strategy doesn't apply to all categories, but maybe in the future we won't be brushing our teeth anymore. Maybe there's some type of mouthwash that will put a coating on our teeth and we don't have to brush as frequently anymore. I'm not saying that's feasible necessarily within this context, but I've seen a Kickstarter project recently that just illustrates that innovation can come from an unexpected corner. There is a project right now where you can buy a toothbrush that is more like a sponge that you bite into and it cleans your teeth in 6 seconds. And it's just something so unexpected that it could maybe change the way that we brush our teeth. So what we're going to do next is, before we go to the break, is just tell you a little bit about what will happen after the break. So each of the 3 next tryout sessions, I will briefly give a pitch, a short introduction, why you should come to their workshop and not any other.